Good morning to all of you participating from USA. Greetings to all of you participating from India. Welcome to Georgia Indo-American Chamber of Commerce's webinar, India, the Business Case for Nature. My name is S.K. Raj. I'm the president of GIACC. On my professional side, I am the vice president of an Atlanta-based technology company called 4R Tech. Almost all of us participating in this webinar have some connection to India as citizens, past citizens, residents, or through family and friends. We love India and are saddened by the havoc COVID is wreaking on her currently. At GIACC, one of our board members is working with the Indian Consulate General here in Atlanta, Georgia, to supply India with oxygen cylinders, concentrators, oxygen generating plants, and COVID treatment drugs such as remdesivir and favipiravir. We sincerely hope the trying times will be behind India soon. Today, we have three distinguished speakers: Paul Fleming, Global Water Program Lead with Microsoft; P.S. Narayan, Global Head Sustainability and Social Initiatives with Wipro; and Priya Shyamsundar, Lead Economist with the Nature Conservancy. Together, all three plan to make the business case for nature for India. Our event partners are the Nature Conservancy and the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Western India Regional Council based in Mumbai, India. We owe today's robust participation to Pankaj Bora, the Regional President of IACC, and Happy Cedar, its Regional Director. For those of you who don't know what GIACC is and what we do, GIACC is a non-profit volunteer organization that with the mission to promote trade and commerce between India and US, specifically Georgia. We do this by hosting events like the Indian Film Festival, Tourism Expo, hosting delegations from India, sending delegations to India, socials for members to network, and working closely with the Consulate General of India here in Atlanta, Georgia. Our members include small business owners, attorneys, bankers, and career professionals. Our sponsors include UPS and ICICI Bank. We also partner with other chambers like the Korean Indian Chamber of Commerce and the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, all the chapters across India. To learn more, please visit us at www.giacc.net and consider becoming an individual or a corporate member. The webinar today will be moderated by Anita and Ninan. Anita is the chairperson of GIACC and a member of its board. On her professional side, Anita is the founding owner of Ninan Legal, a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. With great pleasure, I pass the baton now to Anita. Enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome our expert panel of speakers for this event. We have P.S. Narayan, who is Global Head Sustainability and Social Initiatives with Wipro. Mr. Narayan has been instrumental in the creation of Wipro's sustainability program in 2008, built on the principle that business and social purpose must enforce each other in addressing challenges of ecology and education. He serves as teaching faculty at Azim Premji University and is chairman of the Bangalore chapter of CII Godrej Green Business Center. Over to you, Mr. Narayan.
Thank you. I'm just getting my video on. Thank you, Anita, for that introduction. And thank you, Raj, for setting the context. It's great to know about the steps that you've taken in such a short time, response to the crisis that we are going through currently in India. And I think that's an example of the dynamic relationship between the two countries at various levels: government, business, civil society. Let me spend a few minutes on these three themes on why should business invest in nature, what are the top things that business should do to invest in nature, and how does this sort of set itself against India's challenges and opportunities of the 21st century, the next few decades. The most obvious reason why business should invest in nature is actually the current crisis that we are going through. It's an illustration of what can happen if businesses don't work along with nature and as if the economy is embedded in nature and not the other way around. And I'll come to this in a little while. I'll dwell on it a little bit more. The other overarching point I would like to emphasize is, even keeping aside the larger issues of preserving nature and having a larger social responsibility, the reasons why business must invest in nature is to ensure its own continuity, to ensure its own flourishing. Because I think now the evidence is very clear that if there are negative impacts on nature, there are negative impacts on business. There may be a time lag, but the correlation between the two are very clear. I think climate change is one of the most visible examples of that. Climate change took about 150 years plus to manifest itself since the mid-19th century. But now that its effects are so visible, its impacts on business are also very clear. And these are only going to become more and more severe if we don't act now. Earlier this year in January, the World Economic Forum, which normally meets every year at Davos, this year, of course, it was a virtual meeting. It released what is called the Global Risk Report. And this is an annual report that it releases. And the risk report basically lists the top 10 risks facing the world by impact and by likelihood. And if you have even a casual look at the top 10 risks, they include risks like the failure of climate action, biodiversity loss, extreme weather events. Of course, infectious diseases featured number one there, right? What's interesting about such a risk report is that these risks are part of the radar of business at a forum that really is a gathering of some of the most marquee names in business from around the world. And that in itself tells the story of the world that we are living in, a world that is changing fast, and a world that therefore business must recognize. So let me now move to what is it that businesses can do. Let businesses start from its own perspective. Let it assess what are the top risks to its own business, to its own industry sector, from environmental externalities like climate change or water stress or air pollution or biodiversity loss. So let it do a granular assessment of risks to the business. Number two, it should prioritize those risks. Number three, it should do a comprehensive baselining of its own environmental footprint. What is its energy footprint? What is its carbon footprint? What is its water footprint? What is its impact on proximate biodiversity? And so on. Number four, with every risk is also an opportunity. So businesses should list down what could be the opportunities that are there out of these risks. And then number five, it must find leadership support for establishing a clear strategic action plan that is practical to implement. And it must then fund resources, budgets, set up a good team to go whole hog into execution of that. So these are top 5 or 6 things that any business can do. The details will vary as per the sector, as per the size of the company, but broadly, this is what it should do. To give one example from our own company, about 2 years back, we set about doing a very fine-grained climate risk assessment for 10 of the cities that we operate in India, as well as 6 regions outside. We did it with the help of an external consultant. But what came out of that is not a broad, high-level climate risk plan, but something that we could act on for the cities that where we are present. What could be the risks to our physical infrastructure because of increased frequency of extreme weather events? Or are there risks in terms of reduced employee productivity because of increase in climate-related disease, and so on? There are some signature characteristics that business has always brought to the table that can play a major role in addressing these challenges. Innovation, dynamism, the ability to take risks, the ability to harness opportunities to address problems, right? And that's what businesses, really bring and should bring now to solving some of these problems. We have some great examples. The last 10 years, the cost of solar energy has reduced more than 10 times. And today, in most countries, it's cheaper than grid electricity. As we speak, we see great advances in electric mobility, in storage batteries, and so on. But there are many other challenges. Every electronic device, every mobile phone has a mineral called tantalum. And tantalum is mined from the forests of Congo and Rwanda in Africa. And when you do that, you necessarily encroach on biodiversity there. And when you do that, you get exposed to possibly new pathogens that could lead to the kind of crisis that we are in the middle of, right? So the challenge for business, therefore, is how do I find alternatives to tantalum, either by way of the product or by the process that I use to mine tantalum, and still service the market for electronic devices. So therefore, how do I leverage that business opportunity, but at the same time, see that I don't do anything that can lead to a global crisis like the COVID crisis. So that's really the challenge for business. And I think business has a strong track record in the past of using its innovative dynamism to be able to solve some of these problems. And I'm sure they will do that going forward. Lastly, coming to what does all this mean for India? India is an emerging economy, and therefore it has certain pressing imperatives of lifting millions of people out of poverty, of ensuring social progress on many dimensions. That means, among many other things, growing food productivity, multifold, or greening the electricity grid while simultaneously expanding it. We need a lot more electricity to consume, but we can't afford to use the same thermal power grid. So how do we bring in these
Narayan,
together? Yes, Raj.
Sorry to interrupt you. We really would love to listen to everything that you want to share, but would you hold your thoughts for maybe the Q&A piece, so we'll let the other panelists also talk for now? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely fine. Yes. So
thank you so much. And again, sorry to interrupt you. We really want to listen to everything that you have to share with us. But if you don't mind, if you can keep it for the Q&A piece, that would be awesome.
No problem. So I'll reserve talking about India's challenges a little later. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Please hold your thoughts. Anita?
Yes, so thank you, Narayan, for that insightful presentation. And of course, we are going to continue in the Q&A session. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Priya Shyamsundar, a lead economist with the Nature Conservancy. Ms. Shyamsundar leads a global science team that undertakes research on the economics of conservation and environmental management. She focuses on a range of local conservation to global climate change issues with a particular focus on economic development. She has served on several senior advisory panels for the Government of India and the World Bank, and she has also been a board member for the International Institute for Sustainable Development Canada. Welcome, Priya, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Raj. I will start also, like Mr. Narayan, thanking the Georgia Chamber of Commerce for all the support that it's providing, or the leadership it's providing for helping India during this time of crisis. And my best wishes to all of you back home who are dealing with this right now. Good luck, and hope we can get out of this fairly quickly. Thank you again for this invitation. What I want to do fairly quickly is to discuss some of the work the Nature Conservancy does in India in the context of larger trends that India faces, and possibly sort of to unveil the business opportunities or let you find them as I talk through some of the opportunities that we ourselves see in the work that we do. I'll say this up front, that we just simply do not have the public resources to address all the environmental problems that the Earth currently faces. To get this right, we cannot do it unless we partner with business. We have to find market-based solutions. We need the state, we need the public financing, but we definitely will not be able to get where we want to go without the business sector's involvement. So I urge you to think deep and hard about this. Renewable energy and power demand is expected to triple by 2040 as India grows in India. This will be fueled significantly by renewables, as Mr. Narayan just said. Solar right now is the lowest cost source of new energy in India. And so India is set to expand wind and solar by something like 300%. John Kerry was there just a few weeks ago, both commending India on what it has been able to achieve, which is significant because we started from very little in renewables, but also asking India to expand its ambition, to go beyond its climate commitments that it made in the Paris Agreement. So we've got space to move into. There is a lot of work ahead, both in off-grid and grid-connected renewables. For a country like India, not everything can be grid-connected, so there's a huge amount of investment required, plus institutional change to support off-grid electricity. But our own work has focused on reducing the footprint of renewable energy installations. You may not know this, but renewable energy has a relatively large footprint, typically 3 to 12 times that of coal-powered energy generation. And this can have an inordinately negative impact both on people and biodiversity, on our greener spaces. So we've created a tool called Site Right. It's a decision support tool to help de-risk energy siting. It identifies areas where there are fewer conflicts, both for people and for conservation. So there are fewer cost overruns. We have piloted this tool and are expanding it to other states. And there are opportunities here for the renewable sector to come in and plan big. Reducing India's air pollution. Something like 1.67 million deaths were attributed to air pollution in India in 2019. About a fifth of the total deaths in the country were attributable to air pollution. This is a peer-reviewed information. I'm not putting this number out there. In contrast, since the pandemic started, we've had something like 200,000 deaths, maybe more. I'm sure it's undercounted. I don't mean to diminish this, but I want to just tell you how big, sort of underscore how large the air pollution problem is. Reducing air pollution is not a luxury. It handicaps foreign direct investment. It makes India unattractive For people like you and me, and for everybody who wants to do business in India, there are many opportunities for the private sector to contribute to reductions in air pollution. And we have to find those win-win opportunities. We're trying to do this in Northwest India in the regenerative agriculture space. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but seasonal fires every year in our food basket, from our food basket, Northwest India, Punjab and Haryana, you have these season fires because farmers grow from harvesting rice to sowing wheat within 2 to 3 weeks. And the easiest way for them to clear their crops, the straw, to clean up their fields to grow wheat is to light a match. And something like 2 million hectares of land burn, and the airshed is fairly large, so a lot of the pollution lands in Delhi. On some days, Delhi's pollution is as high as, these PM 2.5 particles are as high as 750 micrograms per cubic meter. I just checked this for Atlanta today. It's 13 micrograms per cubic meter. So the contrast, again, just to give you a sense of the problem. We are beginning to use and advance a solution called a cedar in agriculture that allows farmers to sow their wheat directly into the land without clearing the residue and without burning it. And we hope to convert about 250,000 farmers to no-burn technologies over the next 3 years. Hopefully this will happen despite the pandemic. Again, opportunities in the regenerative agricultural space, the climate smart agricultural space for business to come in. Finally, I want to talk to you about natural climate solutions and forests. Our own research suggests that about a third of the emission reductions required to keep global warming under the 2 degrees Celsius, which is what is the goal of the Paris Agreement, can come from nature-based solutions. For instance, by avoiding deforestation, Mr. Narayan referred to this, deforestation can release carbon into the atmosphere, or by increasing reforestation, so trees can capture the carbon, or by growing trees in croplands, agroforestry. India, as part of its Paris commitment, has pledged to increase its green cover by about a third, 30% or so. But this doesn't just offer an opportunity for conservation. India is currently an importer of wood. It can produce its own wood, use it to meet local construction needs, meet the nutritional needs of soils, because soils are being overused, and nutrients can be put in there through trees and remove carbon from the atmosphere. However, there are several frictions in the supply chain that need to be removed, and we are trying to understand this better. And I'm going to say, punchline, maybe we can learn from Georgia, which is a national and global leader in forestry, including the #1 seedling production for reforestation. So, opportunity, folks. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Priya.
Thank you so much, Priya, for enlightening us on so many initiatives that are being taken by TNC in India. And during the Q&A, we have a bunch of questions for you, and I look forward to having you address questions from our audience. We finally have Paul Fleming, Global Water Program Lead from the one and only Microsoft. We're so happy that he's been able to join us. Mr. Fleming joined Microsoft to build a corporate water stewardship program, establishing Microsoft as a leader in this space. Microsoft is committed to be water positive by 2030, enabling drinking water and/or sanitation access for 1.5 million people in 7 countries. He has also co-founded the Water Resilience Coalition and serves on the steering committee of the CEO Water Mandate. Prior to his time in Microsoft, he established the Climate Resiliency Group for Seattle Public Utilities. Over to you, Paul.
Great, thank you for that introduction, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Like others, our thoughts go out to all of you in India who are dealing with the COVID issue. I just wanted to share some of our experiences as we look to up-level our commitments to address the various environmental crises that that the world is grappling with. And at the heart of that is the notion that in order for Microsoft to do well, we need the world to do well. And that includes our ecosystems and our environmental systems. And I have here a quote from our CEO, Satya Nadella, who has stated that the purpose of a corporation is to find profitable solutions to problems of people and the planet. And what we embarked upon last year in 2020 was a series of commitments to respond to that observation and that by our CEO. And we made commitments in 4 different areas as it relates to environmental sustainability. Those included a commitment to be carbon negative, to be water positive, and to be zero waste by 2030, and to deploy a planetary computer to serve as a leading a platform to address the various environmental challenges that society faces. And each of those commitments were an effort to align what we're doing operationally with respect to our own impacts with these societal needs. But we also went further to step back and look at how can we align what we do as a company with these global, broader societal needs. And so we've and continue to infuse environmental sustainability considerations into our partner and customer engagements, into our products as part of our policy commitments that we make, and also engaging our employee base to align the sort of full gamut of what Microsoft is as a company with directing that energy towards addressing these challenges as it relates to carbon, water, waste, and ecosystems. And I wanted to talk a bit specifically about the water aspects of that. And I lead the Global Water Program in Microsoft's corporate environmental sustainability team. And we made a commitment to be water positive, which for us means that we will replenish in water-stressed areas more water than we consume globally, and that we will also enable access for 1.5 million people, access to drinking water and/or sanitation services, initially through a partnership with water.org, which is a leading NGO here based in the US, and then also a commitment to reduce our water use intensity. And for us, nature-based solutions are essential to us achieving particularly our replenishment commitments. One of the first projects we supported was with the Nature Conservancy to restore Lake Simbakam in Chennai, and to help both accelerate and increase groundwater recharge, but also create an additional sort of flood pocket so that that area that whipsaws between drought and floods could be better positioned to be a natural asset for helping to manage the water cycle in Chennai. We also have worked with the Nature Conservancy to restore oxbows, which are natural bends in a river that have been cut off, and are working outside of Iowa to help restore the natural cycle and the natural flow of a river, which can help to increase water quality and help to store water. And we're also working in Arizona to increase groundwater recharge and aquifer recharge. And I can go on. But at the heart of that is that these interventions are focused on essentially reconnecting and helping to bring back the natural water cycle so that our natural systems, our ecosystems can provide the types of services that are essential in order to manage variability and to prepare for a changing climate. So And then one other thing I want to note is not only are the NBS strategies, nature-based solutions, critical, and this is my grandfather clock that's chiming right now, which also tells me I need to wrap up. Another key component is partnerships. And so along with the Nature Conservancy and several other, 19 other companies, we're part of a group called the Water Resilience Coalition, which is a collection of companies that all of whom have made a commitment to increase and improve conditions in the basins where they operate, which includes a number of basins in India. And we can expect that, again, nature-based solutions will be a crucial part of how these companies come together to make collective action investments to improve basin conditions. And so really excited to hear how this conversation goes in the next half hour. And again, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for including me in this session.
Thank you, Paul. Can you just stay with your audio and video? We'll get the other panelists for the Q&A.
Sure.
Anita?
Yes. I'm on. Okay. You need to get my video on.
Yes, hold on one second.
Okay. So thank you to all our speakers. The common thread and my takeaway from all your three presentations was we are at a time where the climate change crisis is a humongous, enormous problem. And to find solutions, it has to be a market-based public-private partnership. Otherwise, it is going to be left unaddressed. So with that, I just wanted to say that we as a business chamber, while our focus is just to promote business opportunities, at the same time, we want to use our platform to educate our members and our viewers on the concrete steps that India is taking through these public-private initiatives to achieve sustainable development. So with that, I'm going to shoot my first question to Mr. Narayan. And you had wanted to continue and finish up on the challenges and opportunities that India offers in this space. But I'd also like to ask you, to address in that context, how is technology aiding India's conservation goals? We always talk about India being the land of jugaad or innovation, and you did mention a few of those in your presentation, but if you could give a few more specific examples, of initiatives which are very specific to the India story, that would be great.
Sure. So I think Priya did cover a lot of points on the India story, so I'll not go too deep into that. But if you look at the technology angle in sustainability story for an emerging economy and a developing country like India, well, I think there are certain advantages that India has, which it has already trying to leverage in applying it to a variety of problems. And those advantages, are in areas like mobility, and when I say mobility, I don't mean in terms of transport. What I mean is in terms of electronic mobility, and the way it has applied that to a variety of social issues, healthcare, for example, agriculture is another, right? I think one of the biggest challenges for India is agriculture in the context of climate change. How do you conserve water? How do you improve food productivity? How do you preserve and conserve the fertility of soil? And in most of these, we have very exciting technology-based solutions that are either already there or that are emerging. Solutions that, for example, combine now artificial intelligence to, to deliver accurate forecasting information to farmers. That is one. In the usage of water, how do you optimize the usage of water in farming? There are a number of technology solutions that are both traditional engineering centric solutions as well as new technology enabled solutions. Right? So I think there are a lot of examples like that in agriculture and climate change. And of course, there are, in urbanization, where you're looking at issues of pollution, you're looking at issues of traffic optimization, and so on. There are terrific solutions that are there taken. So it'll require a separate 2-hour session probably to.
Sure. Thank you for addressing that. I'm going to ask Priya a question on reducing air pollution. I was a Delhiite, so I grew up there, and over the years, air pollution has been a real problem in Delhi. I remember the winter months when flights could never take off because of the smog, the dense smog. They would be delayed.
Our county voter registration and elections office. Of course, everyone is familiar with House Bill 202, and it does require identification.
Oh, we have somebody. Okay, and sorry about that. We also, in recent years, I'm a U.S. business immigration attorney, and I know consulates. There were consular officials who were very concerned about taking postings in New Delhi because of the extreme poor air quality. You did mention about, stubble burning and that being one of the significant factors for air pollution in Delhi. Can you tell us, can you speak a little more about, the solution you mentioned about the Cedar program that you have? Is it? Yeah, and I just want to know, is in terms of finding solutions for this major problem, is it mainly, is it a combination of, fines and penalties, economic incentives, and programs such as yours, which is actually helping to take care of it? Or, how far have we moved the needle in terms of improving air quality?
Yeah, I think you've touched on some very important issues about the interactions between technology and sort of local institutions and capacities, and sort of how all of that comes together to make change actually happen. Because I do think the technical solutions are absolutely the first step towards getting to where we want to go, and then building the right systems in place is as important as the technical solutions to get to outcomes. So what we are trying, on average, about a third of the pollution that if you were living in Delhi, and there may be others who are living in Delhi, that you are exposed to during the winter months from November to January, February, say, comes from the burning of this crops residue in Northwest India. For those of you, all of you would know Northwest India. I'm not speaking to a solely American audience here. It's just the breadbasket of India. Now, farmers, for various reasons, and this is so related to the water issue that Paul was discussing, the water table has really fallen, and there's very little groundwater. I think, I don't know, maybe 80% of the blocks in Punjab are kind of red blocks, or blocks where groundwater is already in crisis. So what the government did was it introduced a law several years ago mandating that rice could not be grown till the arrival of the monsoons, And what that did was it pushed the rice season, which meant that when farmers had to grow their wheat, they only had 2 weeks or 3 between harvesting, clearing, growing. I mean, that's not a lot, right? And so what do? I mean, these poor farmers, their options were limited, so they burn. And so the fires have increased tremendously with this huge sort of cloud, and the air is really polluted. Now, what we're trying to do is, this is a technology that arrived from Australia many years ago, but was recreated in India, and it's the Happy Cedar. It's a seeder which allows farmers to drill a hole directly into the ground without tillage and drop the seeds, the wheat seeds into the ground and fertilizer and such. So you see the seeds come out. But there are many challenges. One, the farmers have to think that it's okay to grow their, drop their seeds into the land without clearing the land when they've been doing it without tilling, which they've been doing for 50 years and so on. So we're trying to create the right institutional setup over there to allow local companies to provide these seeders, so that the supply is not the constraint, to educate farmers so that they learn how to use this technology, and to test new incentive mechanisms that may enable them to adopt faster. So, I mean, I'll stop there. I could.
Great.
It's a favorite topic. So
thank you for that. Paul, just a follow-up question on, a similar, staying on the topic of air pollution. You are in a big multinational corporation. I know, senior expats who want to relocate into a fantastic, huge market the size of India. Is there any hesitancy on, for senior leadership to come in and relocate their families into India, into a city like New Delhi, or do they like to be based outside and oversee operations, business operations in India? I mean, it just speaks to the same issue of, how important it is for us, for businesses to look at, the impact on climate.
Anita, I don't have visibility into how senior leadership thinks about that issue. So that's okay. Not one I can really comment on.
Okay, that's fine. So maybe I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the water project that you are heading, the coalition. What is the profile of the companies that are participating in this? Is it only large corporates, or is it medium-sized, small businesses? How successful have you been in terms of getting, a variety of companies across the spectrum of small to big involved in this initiative?
Sure. Yeah. And the initiative is again referred to as the Water Resilience Coalition, and it tends to be larger companies. Each of the companies are signatories to the UN Global Compact, and are typically also members of the UNCO Water Mandate, which is a initiative of the Global Compact and the Pacific Institute that's focused on accelerating the maturation of water stewardship in the corporate water space. Mm-hmm. So the membership is in the Water Resilience Coalition includes companies such as Microsoft, Coca-Cola, PVH, AB InBev, Ecolab, Curita, Starbucks. There's a good crosscut of different types of companies. I would say they tend to be larger, and we certainly would be interested if there are some India-based companies that would like to join that effort. So happy to field any inquiries from any companies that are on the line. I'd say the common thread, though, is a recognition amongst the companies that water is there are varying degrees of water crises around the world, and that can include lack of access to safe drinking water or sanitation services, which is a major hindrance to human development and economic development. It can also be about poor water quality or lack of quantity, availability of water. And all of these companies are committed to understanding the local storylines around what are the key stressors around water in areas where they operate, and are committed to have what we call a net water positive impact, and to work with each other to improve basin conditions. So if those are the types of activities and commitments that are of interest to your company, please let me know, and be happy to put you in contact with the Secretariat for the Water Resilience Coalition.
Great, thank you. We have a question for Mr. Narayan in our chat box. As an organization, how do you use partners who provide multiple services and products that help to reduce the carbon emissions in your value chain?
So I'll divide my response into two parts. One is what we do within our own value chain, and very quickly what we do for customers. We are a professional IT services organization, so most of our footprint, environmental footprint, whether it is energy or water, is from the buildings and facilities that we work out of. Unlike, let's say, a manufacturing organization, where the carbon footprint would be from machinery and equipment. And over the last 12 years or so, since we formally started our sustainability program, our two primary levers of carbon reduction have been improved energy efficiency and increasing the footprint of renewable energy in our operations. Since Paul just spoke about India companies coming aboard the Water Alliance, let me take the example of carbon. So Microsoft and Wipro are two of the 9 founding members of the Net Zero Coalition, which has committed to net zero emissions. So Wipro is one of the founding members. So we are committing to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. All our work, therefore, is on energy efficiency and renewable energy. How do we do this? Well, we have an internal team which works closely with partners who bring in the relevant expertise. But I think the important point here I would like to emphasize is whether it is energy or water, it is fundamentally designed, conceptualized, and program managed by us. It's not that a consortium of project partners come together and we outsource it to them. It's we who conceptualize and we who run it, of course, with the help of partners. So that's our approach. Very quickly, we offer a portfolio of solutions to customers for reducing their carbon emissions, which are primarily technology enabled. So that's the other part of what we do. I'm going to pause here.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask Priya a question on, you had spoken about the decentralized solutions. In terms of the central government and the state governments in the 2021 budget, do you see there has been an increase in the spend towards environment and conservation in the federal budget and the state budgets? And if in the state budgets, which are the states which are showing leadership and moving proactively forward with addressing issues?
So that's a very specific question, and I am not deep into the weeds of the central government's budget. But if you will allow me, I will just say that we, along with a coalition of partners, have worked to support the National Finance Commission in its decisions for how money is distributed across states, based on environmental criteria. So wonderful. This resulted in this in a decision to distribute $66 billion over a 6-year period to states that were forested. It's been called the world's largest ecological transfer. So this is our big policy win. And so that's our sort of, trying to move policy too. So there is financing for conservation.
Right. Fantastic. That's great. I'm going to ask now, I think in terms of time, yeah, we're almost to the end. Let me ask one more question of Mr. Narayan. Mr. Narayan, you are also an academician. So why don't you give us, share with us and our, the audience, what has your experience been with, the student body in India? Do you find them, concerned about issues of climate change? Do they, consider that and, check out the CSR index of companies when they think about, starting their careers. Just give us an insight into what the youngsters in India feel about this whole topic and issue.
Yes, I mean, there's no doubt in our minds that not only in India, but I think the world over, the young of today are much more clued in, much more aware of environmental issues in general. That's something that I've seen at close quarters, both in academia, also as a company which employs close to 200,000 people in our company. And most of them are the age profile of, let's say, between 22 to 35 or 40. We are increasingly aware that the company of the future, if it has to attract the right talent, it must appeal to their sensibilities about the environment and about society. They feel very strongly about a lot of issues on the environment and society. And if they don't see a company as being adequately active and engaged, not just from a publicity and brand perspective, but in its philosophy, in its values, they will not join that company. So it's very important for companies to, for that reason at least, to transform itself, something that the young of today and tomorrow are going to find attractive. And this is something that consistently comes across, both, as I said, in my academic experience as well as in the corporate world.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to wrap up this Q&A session by asking each one of you to give a 30-second plug on this question. In your experience, what has been the most effective method to get business on board for conservation? Is it legislation, public-private partnership, economic incentives, or the whole basket? Paul, do you want to start?
Sure. My immediate reaction was sort of, I wouldn't call it peer pressure as much as when you see other companies starting to move towards something, I think there can be an effect, right? And can help pull other companies in. Getting some background noise here. I don't know if those are. So I think that's a key aspect, is how to sort of get started, right? And to draw other companies in and other partners into this process. I think that's an effective way to give momentum on this topic.
Great. Priya?
I think there are multiple ways in a country like India, which mandates a certain amount of CSR funding going from corporates to social causes. I think there is an opportunity to find the niche that works for corporates and works for you, right? Often it's very locally, it's used for local purposes, and to sort of identify where the marriage can happen. But I think also for us, it's important, corporates can do two things. They can finance, just like Microsoft is, they can finance nature-based solutions, and you really, all of you should be doing that. But you can also seize those business opportunities to create good businesses that can offer these win-win solutions. And I hope we see more of that in India, where there are lots of young people looking for that. And that's, I think I want to sort of put a plug in for trying to find those, to support those business schools that can show young people the way to create those innovations in that particular space.
Wonderful. Mr. Narayan?
In an ideal world, business would engage with nature because that's the right thing to do. But we don't live in an ideal world. So I think the reality is it's a mix of carrot and sticks, which essentially means it's a mix of legislation, regulation, and things that are good for business to do. That are good for business to do, either because it means strong business sense from a revenue or profit perspective, or it's good for the business brand and reputation. That mixed judiciously with certain kinds of legislation is what really makes the whole, it's what really makes a needle move substantially. Yes.
Right, great. Well, thank you all. I think that's been just such a great session of giving us so much of information about what's happening on the India front on this very, very important topic. And now I am going to invite Mr. Pankaj Bhora, Western India Council Regional President of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, to give the vote of thanks.
Hi, this is Pankaj Bohra, Regional President, West India Council of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. As you know, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce is an apex bilateral chamber promoting trade, commerce, and investments between India and USA. Today, I bring greetings for you all from 1,800 members of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, India. Our relationship with the Georgia Indo-American Chamber of Commerce is more than a decade old, and we have been working together in furtherance of our common objective. It is indeed my proud privilege to propose vote of thanks on today's webinar. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Anita Ninan, Chairperson, Georgia Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. S.K. Raj, President, Georgia Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, for giving me an opportunity to participate in this webinar. From today's discussion from all the panelists, it is amply clear that businesses will have to proactively protect the environment. If businesses fail to protect the environment, they are going to expose to many risks. May it be physical risk of disruption in the supply chain. May it be taxation risk. Government may impose carbon tax on the business entities. May it be financial risk where investors may turn away from the companies who are not protecting the environment. It could be a competitive risk and the reputation risk also. But I'm happy to share with you that after this Paris Agreement of 2015, most of the companies have been trying to be compliant with the environmental rules and regulations. And very recently, Government of India and Government of USA have signed an energy and climate partnership that will help mobilizing resources for generating the clean energy. Today, our learned speakers, Mr. S. Narayan, has explained to us why business must invest in nature, how they should plan this investment, and what are the challenges and opportunities in investment in the nature. Thank you, Mr. Narayan, for your very insightful presentation.
Thank you.
And I also thank you, Priya Shyamsundar, for telling us how green energy evolution should be planned for a healthy environment, advantages of renewable energy and natural climate solutions like afforestation. Thank you so much for explaining many aspects of natural conservancy. I'm also thankful to Paul Fleming, who has very nicely brought out importance of the water and nature conservancy. And on behalf of all the participants, it's heartening to note that Microsoft's commitment to water positive, carbon negative, and zero waste production. So all the other businesses would also like to follow the same philosophy and try to protect the climate. Last but not the least, I thank you all the participants who have attended today's program. I hope they are benefited from today's discussion and they have better insight on the subject. Once again, thank you very much to Georgia Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and all the participants. Good day to all the participants from America and good night to all the participants from India. We formally
Thank you, Pankaj. That wraps up this webinar. A good day and good night to all.